This is a MacBook Air M1. It's an interesting color. I would call this more of a salmon than like a rose gold or anything. This is the old style chassis. You got the wedge, you got 2 ports on the side here. I think you got nothing over here aside from a headphone jack, yep. And it's the same old MacBook Air we all know and perhaps love. What I have in here is the brand new M2 MacBook Air. For whatever reason, we still have it in a shipping box. So I'm just gonna get this out of here. How does this even work? Oh, okay. Oh yeah, it's one of these fancy Apple shipping boxes. It is a big L. Most MacBooks, you just see the front of it, but the MacBook Air, they've always shown the side profiles to show how thin it is. And I guess in this case, they've chosen it open to show that it's even thinner because it has to be thinner than the last gen every time. Except I don't think it is this time. On the back of the box, we can see that we have a base model spec, I believe. This is 8 gigs of unified memory with a 256 gig SSD, so this is gonna be slow by comparison to the 512 or higher SSD. 8-core CPU and 8-core GPU. So I think the higher spec version has a 10-core GPU, if I'm not mistaken. And that's about all you got on the back of the box. Just like with the MacBook Pro, I don't think you'll find M2 listed anywhere on the back of this box. Apple, stop. Okay, here, let's just do a peel of sorts. Yeah, there we go. Man, I said there was something in the air. There's also grass in the air. I'm allergic to grass, so if I'm a little loopier, that's why. Here we go. This is the new, like, Midnight Black. Is that what it's called? Midnight? That is black. Like, for comparison, that's space gray. If you like black laptops, you're gonna love this. They are very similar in terms of size. That's interesting. The feet, I think, help give it more height. It rests the same height, so the lids are about the same height off of the desk, but the Air is thinner. Along with our 2 Thunderbolt 4 ports, we have MagSafe, which is something you don't get on the M2 Pro. You can actually get better expansion out of the M2 Air simply because you don't have to plug in a charger or a power delivery capable dock, which is a nice feature. And on the other side, we just have that headphone jack, which I think is high impedance. I'm not entirely sure. And I mean, that's really all there is to the MacBook's exterior. Like, oh, there's a little bit of engraving there you can see for the, I guess the model and serial number. One of the things that makes the new Air stand out from the old Air is the old Air had that wedge shape, whereas the new one is entirely flat. Let's take a look at the keyboard. And I know it's gonna power on. Yeah. Oh, but it looks so good. Like this colorway, look at it. There is a Touch ID sensor for your fingerprint. The keys themselves, I think are the same keys you would find on this 14-inch Pro. They feel pretty much the same.
If you would like to learn how to use VoiceOver.
Stop! While we wait for this to set up, let's get into the rest of the box here, because I kind of dove right in on the laptop. So we've got this here charger. This is a 30-watt charger. Probably make this smaller with the correct gallium nitride arrangement. This is MagSafe. It's supposed to not tangle as much with the braiding and all, but it kind of tangled on me. It's kind of amazing how shallow the current gen MagSafe is. That is a perfect match. And of course it's MagSafe, so why doesn't it do dark mode out of the box? It knows what model this is. It should know what color it is too. There we go. Now it matches. I think the Air is a little bit brighter. It could just be that the screen is actually just bigger, which is a huge advantage to the MacBook Air compared to the MacBook Pro. The bezel, oh, sorry, I got sidetracked with the universal control feature. Lol. What was I saying? Benadryl. The MacBook Air has a 13.6-inch screen, whereas the MacBook Pro has a 13.3-inch screen. There's much less bezel around the edges. You do have the notch, but you get this extra screen real estate up here for free. Plus, you don't have the menu bar in that viewable area on the Pro on the Air. 2560 by 1600 on this guy, 2560 by 1664 on this guy. Those extra 64 pixels are the menu bar at the top. Pro's display is sRGB, whereas this one is DCI-P3. Do you see that stuttering on the MacBook Pro?
Yeah, you're right. This looks like
Yeah.
This looks really bad. It's not running 60 FPS. God, what the hell's wrong with this thing?
For a minute, I was convinced that the MacBook Air had a 120 Hz panel. The reason being, the MacBook Pro is stuttering, and I have no idea why. Now, its battery is not fully charged. It's at like 25%. There's nothing going on in Activity Monitor. They both have the same brightness set up right now. I don't know. kind of ridiculous for an Apple device. You never get that. Whoop. The UFO test still thinks that it's 60 hertz over here too. But it is definitely 60 hertz over here. Supposedly these have the same color spaces, given the billion color claim. But the XDR obviously is XDR. This is just a flat display. Okay. Let's get the M1 MacBook Air opened up here. I mean, we have to test the speakers, of course. Well, it's better than I remembered. That's actually really good. Interesting. It seems like it's more balanced. It's pretty good. 400 nits, 500 nits. Of course, you're still not getting that HDR. I wonder what Dbrand's gonna do with the new MacBooks.
Thanks to Dbrand for sponsoring this video. They sent over some special skins that they're only gonna be, limited time. Oh my God. Is this actually a product?
Yeah.
Oh my God. MacBook 2022 M2. Oh my God. It's Craigbook. You asked for this, we don't know why. While watching WWDC, we had 2 questions for Apple. What the hell are you doing with these transitions, and how can we profit off them? Typical Dbrand. They can only answer one of these questions, and it's by turning Craig into an M2 MacBook skin. Jesus. I'm not surprised. I'm sorry, Dbrand. You told me to be surprised. I'm not surprised. This is normal for you now. If you guys are crazy like the people at Dbrand, go to dbrand.com/Craigbook and buy this, I guess. Or don't. You can buy other Dbrand skins that are less ugly, but apparently they want you to buy this one, so buy this one. Just do it, okay?
I guess next we'll do a webcam test. I believe this is using a 720p, whereas this is a 1080p FaceTime camera. Comparing the webcam between these two, it looks like the 1080p FaceTime camera is an upgrade over the 720p, but it's not as big an upgrade as you might think it is. The image processing is very similar on both. Wait. Okay, yeah, we're looking at different walls. Benadryl. It's surprising how good the signal processing is on the Apple Silicon platform. It's just really good. This is the elephant in the room when it comes to the new MacBook Air. This MacBook Air M1 has a 256 gig SSD. This MacBook Air M2 has a 256 gig SSD. What Apple did was they switched from having a multi-chip to having a single chip SSD for the same capacity at 256 gigs. And you can see already that our performance is not super amazing. We've got 3,387 megabytes per second read sequential on the M1. Pretty much exactly half that, a little bit more than half that on the M2. These speeds are still very high. Now it looks like the random reads, I think that's QDepth1, is pretty close. That's a good sign for general usability, and that's probably why Apple felt that it was okay to do this. Actually, it looks like the M2 is a little bit faster than the M1 in terms of random writes, and that might make a little bit of sense. That storage controller might actually be a little more capable. If you're going to buy a MacBook Air, I would suggest buying the upper end model versus the base model, because the upper end model I think comes with a 512 gig SSD, which would be faster, and it comes with those extra GPU cores, which are definitely faster, and the better charger. Just upgrading the storage alone is a $200 upgrade on the US website. That makes it a no-brainer to get the higher end model, straight up. Like, why would you buy the base model? Creative Cloud alone will take a big chunk of that, as will Xcode, as will Final Cut, and that all adds up. I would prefer the extra room afforded by a 512 gig SSD personally. You can also get a 1 terabyte or 2 terabyte SSD as well instead of just the 512. I would probably upgrade the memory personally. 8 gigs is not a lot. 16 should be standard. Okay, let's grab the M2 Pro as well. 3, 2, 1. Obviously, we know that the M2 equipped Pro is slower than the M1 Pro equipped MacBook Pro. It should be faster than the M1 equipped MacBook Air, as it was than the M1 equipped MacBook Pro. Honestly, I don't know why they couldn't fit a fan into the MacBook Air, like a tiny little fan. I guess they just didn't want the whiny noise. It already looks like Cinebench is going to complete in a very similar time frame. In any situation where you're not racing to sleep, the M2 Air is going to be just as fast as the M2 Pro. I don't understand why this exists. Yeah, I'm looking at the pricing here. For the base model MacBook Pro 13, it's a little more expensive than the base model MacBook Air, but you do get that 10-core GPU, and you get a fan, and the touch bar if you care about that, which are the only real upgrades you're getting over the MacBook Air. For the upgraded MacBook Air, you're looking at $14.99, and to get the same upgrade, you're looking at $14.99 for the MacBook Pro. Why? So for the Pro, you're getting a fan, the touch bar, at the expense of the function keys, which are full height this time instead of these half height things on the old Airs, and you're getting a slightly better battery. I like the Air a lot better than I like the Pro. If you're already looking at buying a MacBook, I would say buy a MacBook Air instead of the MacBook Pro, at least for the 13-inch model. With that being said, I guess now we take it apart. Maybe I'll end up breaking it. Wouldn't that be great? I've got a body count going, you know. Let's get these pics. This is always really annoying getting this to move. Okay, so I think it pulls this way. There we go. 4 screws. Battery, a Force Touch trackpad. Okay. There's our speakers. Those speakers are actually larger than I expected they would be. It's not as held down as I would expect for an Apple device. I think this is all mostly heatsink, to be honest. With graphite tape, yeah. One thing that I've always really liked about Apple's designs is that they've always gone out of their way to make the internal look nice, even though they don't expect or want anybody to ever look at it. Neat. Well, I'm not going to take the battery out or the cooler off because we're going to have to test the thermals and everything on this later. I've seen people ask me like, oh, well, you opened it up, you disturbed the thermals. No. Engage those clips. Ow, ow, oh, ow. I tore a big strip off my thumb. Ow. Well, if you liked this injurious short circuit, hit like and get subscribed. Make sure you check out some more of them. There are plenty of them. Not all of them contain grievous bodily harm, but hey, sometimes they have violence.